for Sasuke twice. One when Orochimaru was insulting Sasuke and talking about him as if the Uchiha was his possession, and previously when it seemed like Haku had killed Sasuke and he became furious. However, with Hinata it was different. Hinata was definitely the trigger. People argue that things have been building up and Hinata, he could have exploded at any time. Maybe. That argument is not invalid. However, Shikamaru said that Hinata was the trigger. Shikamaru, despite his laziness, he's extremely observant and intelligent. And he's very insightful. And he's very intuitive. So, for him to say that, there's no doubt about it. For him to say that, means that there's no doubt about it. Hinata was the trigger. Whether or not things were building up, Hinata was the straw that broke the camel's back and made the Kyuubi emerge. 6 tails to boot. 2 more tails than last time. Absolutely incredible. And of course, Pain was going to feel his wrath. And Pain obviously felt his wrath. But what caught me when I was reading the chapter all those years ago when it first came out was the side text when it said, was the text on the picture, and it said Naruto seethes with the worst, and the text on the last panel when the Kyuubi emerged was Naruto seethes with the worst emotions he's ever felt. I mean, wow. Oh, I mean, how amazing is that? That implies that Naruto at that point was the most angriest and most upset he'd ever been. The worst he was in the worst state. He was in the worst possible state he'd ever been in to date. All because of Hinata being struck down. So, if that doesn't tell you that Naruto may well care for Hinata more than a friend, I don't know what would. And also, if we speed forward in time to recent chapters, there have been other significant NaruHina moments in the past, like when Hinata was worried about Naruto when he was struck down by Tobi, and so on. But one of the most significant ones to date was when Hinata was saved by Naruto after it looked like she was going to get struck down by the Zetsus. Because he told her that everything would be alright and he apologised for being late. Although he went and saved everybody else, he and Hinata had a longer conversation than the others. Okay, that alone isn't enough to warrant sufficient evidence that it's a NaruHina moment. Yes, keyword, that alone isn't. Their conversation itself is what makes the NaruHina moment something that could signify potential for them to be getting together in the future. And that's because it's a parallel, at least in my eyes, to the proud failure moment when Hinata cheered Naruto up. Not that there wasn't a parallel before, because I've mentioned that. However, it's almost as if Kishimoto is harking back to that in this particular moment, because Hinata was feeling upset that she hadn't been able to protect Naruto because he's the sole person he wants to protect, and that she feels like she's not able to, and that she hasn't been able to, and she thinks that she's no good. However, Naruto, without even knowing what she was, without even reading, it was almost as if Naruto had read her mind, because he said, "Don't worry about that, Naruto." Because he said, "Don't worry about that, Hinata." He told her not to worry about it because he knew she was strong from looking in her eyes. He told her not to worry about that because he could tell, just by looking at her eyes, that she was strong. And he said that he was probably quite lame. He said that he must be pretty lame because Hinata had already had to save her twice. he said that he must be pretty lame because Hinata had already had to save him twice. What made this moment mutual was the fact that before this, after he had saved Hinata from the Zetsus, people were suspicious of him because he was in QB chakra mode, so he looked different, and as Kiba said, he smelled different as well. So they weren't sure whether it was Naruto or not because it could have been a Zetsu clone. However, Hinata told them that it wasn't. Hinata was certain that it was the real Naruto. She could just tell by looking at him. However, Hinata was certain that it was the real Naruto because she could tell just by looking at his eyes that it was him. So where even then it's almost like that's also seems to me that's a parallel to all those years ago when everyone else was suspicious of him and hated him because they didn't know the real him. And even back then, as I said before, Hinata knew the real Naruto, saw the real Naruto, and again here she saw the real Naruto when nobody else did. They strengthen each other's resolve. They strengthen each other's resolve, and they motivate each other to get stronger and grow as characters. And I can see that. All I can see is that, and I can see that continuing as the series goes on. And also, Naruto flashed back to the confession when he was saying that she was strong. So that tells me that he accepted her confession, and not only that, it's obvious that it had a significant impact on him. It had a significant impact on him, but the fact that he was thinking about that when he was talking to Hinata in that chapter, that's a good sign. That means that that he remembers her confession, and he hasn't forgotten about it. And it also means he's not ignoring it. Lots of anti-NaruHina fans seem to think that because Naruto hasn't talked to Hinata about the confession or vice versa, that it means that the confession's been resolved in this chapter because he thought about it and that's it, and he thanked her for that. And that he was thanking her for that. Yes, he was, but he's definitely going to respond to her feelings at some point. Because Naruto is not one to just... Naruto wouldn't leave such a thing hanging. There will be some hint or definitive moment in the future where Hinata's confession is addressed. And of course Naruto's feelings are addressed. Because, as I said before, their bond and their dynamic is continually growing. So who knows what will happen from here. So in a word, this pairing has potential. Massive potential. So for those who think that this pairing is done, far from it. Keep on reading the manga and you'll see what I mean. Kishimoto is far from done with NaruHina. And the fact that he had Naruto flash back to the confession in that recent chapter tells me that there is a huge chance that the confession will have a positive outcome, that Naruto will return Hinata's feelings. But that's merely my interpretation. You can take it how you wish. You can differ as much as you want. I'm not stopping anyone else from shipping any other pairing. I'm just saying this is why I think NaruHina is one of the most likely pairings in Naruto to happen. Never mind the fact that Naruto, bit of anti-NaruSaku here, that Naruto's rejected the confession of Sakura. I mean, we all knew that it was fake because she loves Sasuke, and that's also another pairing I like. that happens to be my OTP for the series. If I had to choose a favourite pairing, NaruSaku would be it. But I digress. So, given all the negative, given all the negatives, given all the negative moments that NaruSaku has had, it really does say to me that Hinata has more than a fighting chance. It's got a huge possibility of happening, a very big possibility of happening, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next between the two, because their dynamic never ceases to amaze me.